In 2011, Junior Dos Santos knocked out UFC champion Cain Velasquez in 64 seconds. He was unstoppable, untouchable, really the most feared heavyweight on the planet. 9 years later, he would be released from the UFC after 5 brutal knockout losses, fighting in celebrity boxing matches just to make his ends meet. This is the story how one of the scariest fighters in UFC history lost everything, and why even the mighty fall. JDS wasn't born into wealth or privilege. His family worked tirelessly to make ends meet, and young Junior picked up on that hustle early on. By the time he was a teenager, he was already doing odd jobs, washing cars, waiting tables, and even doing construction work to help support his family. There's no story of luxury here, no silver spoon, just grit, determination, and an unyielding desire to make something of himself. Sports wasn't really in the picture at first. Junior wasn't the kid who grew up dreaming of belts and knockouts. He stumbled into martial arts almost by accident. At around 18, he started training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Why? Well, not because he wanted to fight in cages, but because he wanted to stay in shape. Imagine that. One of the scariest heavyweights of all time started this journey because he wanted to get a little fitter. But here's the thing. His trainers quickly noticed something different about this kid. It wasn't his grappling, it was his hands. He had these natural instincts, a sharp eye for openings, and most importantly, a sledgehammer of a right hand. His trainers pushed him to focus on boxing, and man, did that decision pay off. Junior dove headfirst into boxing. Day in, day out, he trained. It was his escape. Every punch, every bag session, every sparring match was just a step further away from the struggles of his small-town life. By the time he stepped into professional MMA, he had one mission: make it to the top. His early MMA career in Brazil was like a highlight reel of chaos. He knocked guys out, made his way through local circuits, and slowly built a reputation as a terrifying striker. There was a buzz around him. People started asking, who is this kid knocking everyone out in the first round? And then in 2008, the call came. The UFC came knocking. Junior Dos Santos was about to step onto the biggest stage in combat sports. It's UFC 90, October 25th, 2008. Junior Dos Santos is making his UFC debut against Fabricio Werdum, a world-class Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and a dangerous heavyweight veteran. If we're being honest, Junior was brought in as a sacrificial lamb. Werdum was supposed to add another highlight win to his resume. The UFC brass, well, they didn't expect much from this new kid. But Junior didn't get the memo. In the first round, Junior unloaded a picture-perfect uppercut that turned Werdum's lights off like someone flipping a switch. Werdum dropped like a sack of potatoes. The crowd went nuts. Joe Rogan nearly fell out of his seat, and the MMA world collectively said, "Who the hell is Junior Dos Santos?" This wasn't just a win, it was an announcement. A warning shot to the entire heavyweight division. Junior wasn't here to play around. He was here to take heads off shoulders. From there, Junior went on a tear throughout the division. His next victims? Stefan Struve, knocked out in under a minute. Mirko Cro Cop, one of the scariest strikers in MMA history, forced to quit after eating a buffet of strikes. Roy Nelson, a granite-chinned brawler, beaten pillar to post for 3 rounds. Every fight, every performance, Junior looked better. His boxing was clean, his footwork was sharp, and his power, unreal. The heavyweight division was on notice. But it wasn't just the knockouts that made Junior special. It was the way that he carried himself outside of the cage. He was humble, soft-spoken, and always smiling. He wasn't trying to trash talk or play a villain. He was just a nice guy who happened to have nuclear warheads for fists. By 2011, Junior had earned his shot at the heavyweight crown. The champion was Cain Velasquez, an undefeated monster with cardio for days and wrestling that could drown anyone. And the stakes couldn't have been higher. The fight was scheduled for UFC on Fox 1, the UFC's big debut on national television. Millions of people, many of whom had never watched MMA before, were about to witness Junior's moment. And boy, did he deliver. November 12, 2011, UFC on Fox 1. The entire sports world was watching. This was the UFC's big chance to break into the mainstream, and they were putting everything on the line with this fight.
You want to go with your best foot forward for your first fight, and to deliver the UFC Heavyweight Championship on free TV. Like I've said, it's been my goal as a promoter to bring big fights back to TV and to bring big fights back to cities that they haven't been in a long time. And if you got to go with the UFC Heavyweight Championship, you definitely want these two athletes in there. Stylistically, this is a great matchup as far as the fight goes, and these guys are both nonstop, and both guys always try to finish.
The fight starts. Junior looks calm and focused. Cain charges forward looking to pressure, and then boom! A thunderous overhand right connects. Cain stumbles and Junior pounces. A few follow-up shots and it's over. In just 64 seconds, Junior Dos Santos became the UFC Heavyweight Champion. It was one of those moments where time froze. Junior fell to his knees, overwhelmed with emotion. The belt was wrapped around his waist. And in that moment, he wasn't just a fighter, he was the baddest man on the planet. The baddest man on the planet was now also attached to his name. But the thing about being king, everyone wants to take your throne. And Junior was about to learn that being a champion isn't just about winning, it's about surviving. His first title defense came against Frank Mir at UFC 146 in May 2012. Now, Frank Mir was no slouch. He was a former heavyweight champion and a lethal submission artist. But honestly, he was outclassed. Junior's boxing was levels above, and Mir had no answer for the sharp jabs and thunderous right hands. In the second round, after eating too many clean punches, Mir crumbled, and the referee stepped in. Another knockout, another dominant win, and the Junior Dos Santos era rolled on. At this point, Junior just looked unstoppable. The heavyweight division had never seen anything like him, and his reign was just beginning. But every empire faces its cracks, and for Junior, those cracks would appear in the form of a familiar face, Cain Velasquez. You see, the JDS Cain trilogy is one of the most infamous sagas in MMA history. These fights didn't just change Junior's career, they changed him. Physically, mentally, emotionally. Let's rewind to UFC 155 in December 2012. Cain Velasquez had clawed his way back to a title shot after decimating Antonio Bigfoot Silva. Cain wasn't coming to fight Junior, he was coming to smother him. From the opening bell, Cain pressed forward like a wrecking ball. His game plan was crystal clear. Don't give Junior any space, don't let him breathe, and for the love of God, don't stand in boxing range. Cain executed that plan to perfection. For 5 agonizing rounds, Cain turned Junior's face into a swollen, bloody mess. The once invincible boxer who danced around opponents was now pinned against the cage, eating shot after shot. And credit to Junior, he didn't quit. He could have folded, most people would have, but he stayed on his feet, absorbing punishment that would have sent lesser men into retirement. When the final bell rang, the fight wasn't even close. Cain had dominated from start to finish. Junior's face told the story. Swollen, bruised, and barely recognizable. And just like that, the belt was gone. But here's the thing about champions. They don't just disappear after a loss. Junior wasn't done. He bounced back with a devastating knockout win over Mark Hunt in May 2013. And when I say devastating, I mean spinning hook kick to the face devastating. Heavyweights don't usually throw spinning kicks, but Junior made it look effortless. This win earned him a trilogy fight with Cain Velasquez, UFC 166, October 2013. This was it, the final chapter in their rivalry. If the second fight was brutal, the third was downright savage. Cain picked up right where he left off. The pressure, the pace, the relentless grinding style, it was suffocating. Junior had moments of hope, brief flashes of that old magic, but Cain was simply on another level. The 5th round ended with Junior's head bouncing off the canvas after an exhausted, desperation standing guillotine choke attempt went horribly wrong. The fight was called off. It wasn't just a loss, it was devastating. The kind of loss that leaves scars you can't see. These 3 wars with Cain Velasquez didn't just take years off of Junior's career, they took years off his life. And yet, he pressed on. After the Cain trilogy, Junior was still a top contender, but the magic was fading. His next fight against Stipe Miocic in 2014 was another 5-round war. Junior won the decision, but he took a lot of damage in the process. His face was battered, and his gas tank seemed to run out much faster than it used to. Then came Alistair Overeem's fight in 2015. Overeem, a powerhouse striker with precision timing, waited for his moment, and when he found it, he landed a clean left hook that sent Junior crashing to the canvas. Another knockout loss, another step down the ladder. But Junior wasn't done yet. In 2017, he got another title shot against Stipe Miocic, now the reigning heavyweight king. The fight was over in the first round. Stipe landed heavy shots, and Junior simply couldn't absorb them anymore. Then came Francis Ngannou, the hardest puncher in the sport. That fight lasted 71 seconds. Another vicious knockout. At this point, fans were starting to worry. Junior wasn't just losing, he was taking damage. Serious damage.
Did you see Francis Ngannou knock out Junior Dos Santos?
Yeah, I didn't even think it was a real knockout. Let him fight it out with him.
Listen, that fight was over. You gotta listen to me. That fight was over.
Did he hit him that hard?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. The scary thing is he just clipped him.
He clipped him.
He clipped him, rocked him, put him down, pounded on his head, and Junior just couldn't even move. He just laid there and take it, and they stopped it quick. That was 100% legitimate.
His final UFC fight came against Cyril Gane in 2020. Gane, a young technical striker, picked Junior apart with surgical precision. Another TKO loss. And just like that, the UFC said goodbye to Junior Dos Santos. The release was heartbreaking, but not surprising. Junior was no longer a title contender. He was being used as a stepping stone for younger fighters. It was a bitter end to a once glorious run. But Junior wasn't ready to hang up the gloves just yet. This is where things get a little bittersweet. Life after the UFC proved to be a harsh reality for the former heavyweight champion. When Junior Dos Santos was released following the Cyril Gane fight in 2020, it marked the end of an era. For over a decade, he had been more than just another fighter. He was Junior Cigano, the man who had headlined pay-per-views, claimed championship gold, and delivered some of the most memorable knockouts in UFC history. His departure felt like watching a legend fade into uncertainty. The cruel irony of combat sports is that fighters rarely know when to walk away. Retirement isn't a choice they make, it's a reality that eventually forces itself upon them. Junior wasn't ready for that reality. Outside of the UFC, his options were limited. While other organizations existed, Bellator, PFL, even the burgeoning world of bare-knuckle boxing, none carried the prestige or financial rewards of the UFC. Junior's path led him to Triller's Triad Combat, an experimental hybrid of boxing and MMA that seemed worlds away from his championship days. His fight against Frank Mir painted a painful picture. The former UFC heavyweight champion found himself outclassed in what felt more like a spectacle than a sporting event. The precision striker who once ruled the division was now struggling in a circus-like atmosphere. The toll of heavyweight fighting had become undeniable. Each punch absorbed, every knockout suffered, all those grueling wars, they had extracted their price. The damage wasn't just physical. The mental toll of brutal knockouts had left its mark. Hesitation where there used to be confidence, doubt where there was once certainty. But Junior kept fighting, not just because of pride or passion, but out of necessity. The financial reality of fighting is often hidden from fans. Championship money, while substantial, dissolves quickly between taxes, management fees, and training expenses. Unlike the rare cases of McGregor or Jones, most fighters, even champions, do not acquire generational wealth. There were whispers about Junior's financial struggles, bad management deals, and failed investments. But this wasn't a story of extravagance or waste. This was the cold reality of the fight game. Short careers, high costs, and the constant pressure to maintain a champion's lifestyle long after the championship money stops flowing. And so Junior Dos Santos continued to fight. Not because the fire still burned bright, but because fighting was all he knew. When you've built your entire life around stepping into combat, walking away isn't just difficult. Sometimes it's impossible. At the height of his power, Junior Dos Santos was more than just a champion. He was a revolution in heavyweight fighting. His combination of technical boxing and raw power changed what people thought were possible in the division. The man who knocked out Cain Velasquez in 64 seconds showed that heavyweights could be artists as well as destroyers. But the price of greatness in combat sports is steep. The trilogy with Cain Velasquez changed him forever. The battles with Miocic, Overeem, and Ngannou took what was left. The same precision striker who once ruled the division was reduced to fighting in hybrid boxing matches just to make ends meet. His story isn't just about wins and losses. It's about the unforgiving nature of combat sports. A cautionary tale of how quickly things can change in a sport where every punch, every war, every knockout takes something from you that you can't get back. Junior Dos Santos gave everything to this sport, and in the end, the sport took everything from him. But despite the tragic ending, Junior's impact on MMA cannot be erased. For a moment in time, he wasn't just the best heavyweight in the world. He was the future of the division. You can see his influence in the technical striking of modern champions like Cyril Gane and the evolution of heavyweight striking as a whole. And while that future may have slipped away, the blueprint he created changed heavyweight MMA forever. So what really happened to Junior Dos Santos? The same thing that happens to every fighter who gives everything to this sport. Time, damage, and the brutal nature of heavyweight MMA caught up to him. But his legacy is not defined by his fall. It is defined by his rise.